Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to thank everybody for the work that they've done on this amazing plan. I think to solve a problem like this, the first step is to really have a roadmap, and I think this supplies that. One of the things I would encourage is for us to look at the least costly, low-hanging fruit. For me, the first step to focus on, I would say, and it's part of this plan, is family reunification. And clearly, there are a lot of folks who don't know that they have a relative. They have a son or a daughter or a nephew or a cousin or a brother that's on the streets in the city of Los Angeles. And there are a lot of folks that would happily take them back and support them. And there are certainly some folks that would happily accept that. So, I've talked to nonprofits about it. Some organizations focus on it, some don't. I don't believe the city or the county has necessarily put a lot of focus on this to date, but it would be an inexpensive way to help a lot of people. Rather than finding them housing, we would find them housing with people that support them and love them. And it would cost us less money. And if they live somewhere outside the general area and their family can't pay to bring them back, we could pay for that. It still would be a lot less expensive and a lot more humane and supportive. So that would be my encouragement. Two other things which are covered, but I'm not sure with as much focus as I'd like. I think there are two entry points to homelessness. One is the foster care system, and one is the jail system. The jail system, particularly at the state level, but now many folks are coming to the county, is horribly flawed. We have by far the worst recidivism record in California compared to the rest of the country. Last I checked, it was 2-to-1 over the next worst state, something like 70%. So what I would suggest with both of these entry points is that we need to take a number of steps so that people never become homeless. They need job training. In many cases, in both systems, they need literacy. They need jobs. They need a mentor. They need housing, and they need some sort of a caseworker, or in the case of the jails, obviously a parole officer. But they need someone to watch over them and make sure they don't slip and don't wind up homeless. And all those steps sound expensive, but they can't be more expensive than then having someone on the street and then trying to pay and build housing for them. We're talking about an estimate of $1.9 billion. I'm not sure exactly how accurate that is, but it's a big number regardless. And so anything that we can do to divert people from being homeless and then having to house them, or to keep them from becoming homeless in the first place, I think is the best opportunity for us. So whatever we can do to avoid having to take that last step of housing them and providing all the services, although we'll have to do a lot of that, I think is critical.
Thank you, Mr. Bonin.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to Miguel and Sharon and your teams, to Mr. Huizar, Mr. Harris-Dawson, Mr. Wesson for helping us get to this point today. It's a big day that we finally have come up with a strategy, that we've worked together with the county. That's something that hasn't happened in the past. Yesterday someone asked me, a reporter said, what's the one thing that stands out for you about this plan? And I said, honestly, the one thing that stands out about this plan is that there is no one thing that stands out about this plan. It is comprehensive. It's from A to Z. It looks not just at the need for permanent supportive housing, but also for proposals to deal with the crisis on our streets, the city of encampments that we've become. It looks at bridge housing. It looks at shared housing. It looks at rapid rehousing to get people off the streets more quickly. It's extremely comprehensive, and it needs to be, because we have such a variety of homelessness in Los Angeles. Tonight in Los Angeles, in Venice Beach, there is going to be people who are teenage runaways, victims of sexual and physical abuse, who are going to sleep on the street. Tonight in Los Angeles is going to be a veteran who has a housing voucher, who still hasn't got a place to live. Tonight in Los Angeles, there are going to be victims of domestic violence who are losing 200 shelter beds in Los Angeles because of HUD guidelines, who don't have a place to go. And it's urgent that we act to help them. I had a half dozen people die on the steps of my Westchester office just last year. People are literally dying on the steps of city buildings because of this. And it's a big deal that we've worked with the county and that we have a comprehensive strategy. But I don't want us to get too excited about the fact that we've got here. It's a very important thing. But if solving homelessness is a marathon, all we've done today is fill out the registration forms. This is a long uphill slog. The finish line is very far away. And we have to stay incredibly focused, and we have to do this as if we are running a marathon. When the fiscal weather gets bad, we still need to continue to make the commitment. If we get distracted by other things or there's roadblocks that come in our path, we have to stay focused upon the strategy that we've outlined here today. The real test for us isn't what we're approving today. The real test is going to be in the budget come April and May. The real test is going to be in November if we put something on the ballot and the voters are willing to back us on it. And the real test is going to be about what we do in our districts. There have been so many plans that have been announced over the years that have all failed because of a failure of political will. And we all, each of us, owe it to the people of Los Angeles, the neighborhoods of Los Angeles, to come up with individual implementation plans for this proposal in our districts. I will definitely be bringing mobile showers. I will definitely be doing public storage. I will definitely be using city properties to build permanent supportive housing. We absolutely need to do it because we're not going to be measured by what we're doing here today. We're going to be measured by what we do in the budget and by what we do in our districts in the coming weeks and months and years. Thanks again for your work on this.
Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. and colleagues, everyone who had a hand in this, thank you for coming up with this very, very thoughtful plan today. I just want to go over a few things, and I'm going to have a question for you here. I have introduced an amending motion on the Homeless Strategy Report, Section 7N, recommendation number 5, which deals with youth housing needs. And it specifically deals with transition-aged youth, which is between the ages of 16 and 25. This recommendation came from a very, very experienced source. Carrie Morrison, who has pioneered the Housing First process in Hollywood, which is really becoming a model for the entire city. Also, this addresses an acute need we have, not just in Hollywood, but across the city, especially with a higher percentage of our homeless youth being in the LGBT community. And what this simply does, and I was a little surprised at the arbitrary removal of this, so I'm glad that we're reinstituting it, is it calls for a further study for actually including doubling up in Section 8 units for transitional aged homeless youth or youth at risk of homelessness. I think it's a very important measure, and the reason I want to see the report back is if this is an issue in some of our districts in terms of the doubling up and emancipated youth, et cetera, then perhaps we can come up with conditions that will manage these situations better. But without a study, we're never going to know, and if we don't have this included, we're never even going to entertain the idea of giving greater assistance to our homeless youth, which is very, very important. And so I'm glad to see that is going back in there and that's supported. And then in terms of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, 10A, and calling for the full funding, since my first day in office, I've been calling for monies to go back into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund because without funding, this plan means absolutely nothing. I'm confident that with the determination of the people around this horseshoe and city leadership and all the agencies involved, we will identify the $100 million either per year or to get us to $2 billion in 10. We'll figure it out, but we have to make those decisions, as you just mentioned, Mike, in terms of really coming up with the money. I had asked in year one of being in office for some of the Boomerang Fund money to go back into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. It's been 4 years now since that has been, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund has been replenished with boomerang funds. I'm hoping that we can perhaps entertain the idea of a percentage of those monies going back in that's reasonable and will actually help get us to the $100 million. And that brings me to my question, Mr. Santana, about how much money do we currently have in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund?
I don't know the exact number. I saw Rushmore here earlier. I don't know if he's still here.
Approximately 20 million. Okay, that's about what I thought. It's probably 20 million and going down. So we have to replenish it because a lot of our affordable housing partners are nonprofits. They'll put together a funding package of 7 or 8 funding elements, and the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is one of those elements, and that's quickly slipping away. And so many times it's that one element that helps these affordable or permanent supportive housing projects pencil out. We also talked about...
Watch your time.
Okay. We also talked about affordable housing across the entire city. Jose and I have a value capture motion that is still pending in the Housing Committee. I'm hoping to see that out so that we can adopt it for the full city councils at some point, because that puts private developers in the business of building affordable housing across the entire city. And I would like to explore what mechanism could be part of that ordinance, should we get there, that would create permanent supportive housing for the homeless as well. We can be very creative with coming up with these funds. It doesn't have to all be from the general fund. We don't have to, all come from the same public well of funding. We have to be very creative. And in this unprecedented growth that we're seeing across the city, I think that we need to explore ways to have all hands on deck for funding. And that's what I wanted to talk about. And I also have, I'll punch my button again, Mr. President.
Well, let's just punch it again then.
Okay, but I wanted to talk about the El Nino piece as well.
Okay,
So
when you punch it again, we'll do that. All right, Mr. Rue. And Mr. Rue, before you start, I do want to thank you and indicate that you bring a different element to this conversation based on your experience in mental health and with the county. And I think just having you here is going to prove to be to our advantage going forward. So thank you for the work that you've done. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. And yes, I've been working closely with my colleagues, the co-chairs, Harris Dawson and Councilman Huizar, on this. And I really want to thank the CAO, the CLA, the mayor's office, all the various other the members of the Homeless and Poverty Committee, as well as everybody else who took part. You know, this is a real, very comprehensive and highly collaborative plan. And this is seriously a monumental opportunity in time. I mean, I've worked for the county in the past. As my colleagues mentioned, this isn't the first time we've declared a war on homelessness. But the difference this time is that we're truly, truly working together. It's not just the city and the county, the feds and the state, but it's also the county government merging all their silos together. It's the city, it's our functions, seeing how we could coordinate all these responses. So this is one of the most opportune times, and I think this is a very promising opportunity for us. But I just want to highlight 2 points on the plan. As reflected throughout the plan, not just our plan, but the county's plan, it states clearly that the city, we cannot achieve a reduction in homelessness unilaterally. We can't do this on our own. We have to play a huge part, but I really, really want to focus the importance of the county's plan. I just want to highlight one case in point. I mentioned this before in our joint committee. The Department of Mental Health, just one department from the County of Los Angeles, their budget is $2 billion, which is approximately a quarter of our general fund budget. And again, you know, talking with you, Miguel, and the CLA and others, I'm glad to know that on our side, our plan realizes this, and we work to fill the gaps where the county cannot cover, and we also support the county in the areas where they are lead. And second point, guiding principle number 6 of the 14 guiding principles, it reads, take a coordinated response, preventing those at risk of homelessness from becoming homeless in the first place, identifying and engaging those who are homeless and connecting them with case management, and matching homeless people with housing and the support they need to remain stable and housed. I want to reiterate, and I fully agree with what Councilman Huizar says. I really want to challenge my colleagues that we add a fourth function by pursuing legislative options and change. For example, re-exploring the 5150 laws, Laurel's Law, which is involuntary treatment, possibly even extending the rights of parents to TAY-age youth, to transitional age youth. A lot of this is beyond our control. It's more state and federal legislation. But like many things, I think LA could be a champion. We could be the catalyst for change. And we're going to start this discussion in my committee, Health, Mental Health, and Education, and I'd love to bring this discussion back to the entire council. This is just the beginning, and as Councilmember Bonin stated earlier, a plan is only a plan, and it's only as worth as the paper it's written on. The real hard part's going to be implementation and execution. But with a united front, with all of our colleagues, I have no doubt that we're not going to be able to tackle this challenge. So thank you for all your efforts, and thanks to all my colleagues for even bringing us to this point. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I would just say the difference, guys, and Ms. Martinez, with this plan is this is the first time that you have ever seen anything as comprehensive as this, and I commend this council for the work that they've done. Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too want to just join in saluting my colleagues, Marquise Harris Dawson and Jose Huizar, for their leadership, their singular leadership on this issue, along with my colleagues, and for the CAO and CLA for your guidance in helping us to marshal a plan that makes some sense. And of course, our mayor and President Wesson appreciate the leadership and the opportunities to work on these issues. As we all know, the causes are complicated and varied for individuals who are in this situation. But I think that the policies and strategies that we are adopting today will permit us to leverage some limited resources in ways that we haven't before, to save lives and to save families. The exciting thing about this plan is that it does require, it encourages, I should say, a city and county partnership in ways apparently that has not occurred before. And I think that's significant. It's also encouraging our city departments to work closer together, as I've experienced firsthand in some of our efforts. And in fact, members, I think it's going to give us a chance to tighten up and to expand opportunities and services in our individual districts, as Mr. Bonin suggested earlier. In District 9, which has the second highest population of homeless, for example, we've instituted a weekly task force so that we're in touch with all the stakeholders and service providers, and so we're all kind of on the same page in the district. I'm covering the cost of 2 outreach workers, and in fact they're housed in our district office. So again, they can be closer to where needs are, and we can be dispatched and coordinated in ways that are going to provide even better results. And I think generally my staff at the City Hall level and in the district office now are certainly much better informed, better aware, more sensitive to opportunities and obstacles associated with dealing with this issue. And so I'm excited that we're moving forward. I think this is an important policy statement, and I think it's going to provide with a roadmap in a variety of areas that will help us impact this problem. Obviously, we need to find some permanent solutions. Many of our efforts here are going to be stopgap or temporary or sort of holding the wall. But we've got to find permanent solutions to these problems. But I'm happy to be a part of this discussion, happy that we're moving forward in I think, a positive, progressive way that's sensitive and that's respectful of limitations we have, but also gives us a chance to dream for achieving greater goals that will benefit not just individuals that we want to serve, but our broader community. And so thank you, colleagues.
Mr. Englander.
You know, in looking at this plan, listening to what Mike said about this being a marathon, and we're just now filling out the registration card, hearing that we've got a homeless problem. It's not a problem, it's a disaster. And homelessness is not a diagnosis. It's not a condition, it's a crime. It's a crime of mental health. It's a crime of drug addiction, financial ruin. It's a crime of domestic violence. It's a crime of PTSD and isolation, lack of services, lack of collaboration. It's a crime. And these aren't statistics. These aren't numbers on a page. These are victims. Thousands and thousands of victims. The plan here today is not a plan that says we cannot fail. We've already failed. Decades of lack of collaboration, lack of supportive housing, lack of financial restraint to make sure that we dedicate the necessary programs and resources, lack of so many things. That's what this recognizes today. In 1975, there was a 5-year-old boy, and he remembers running out of the house and watching his father, who was a 100% disabled vet, pack up the family station wagon with all his things, not the family's, but his, and left for good, left the family. And soon after, that family lost their house, was evicted from their home. Single mom, couldn't pay the mortgage, and moved into an apartment. I was that 5-year-old boy. I remember coming home one day from school and seeing a notice on the door, taped by the landlord. It said eviction. That was our last resort. It was the last place we had to go. My brother moved into foster care, and my sister moved out. Unfortunately, we had one family member who took us in. He was later killed by some gangbangers. This, to me, is criminal. The fact that we're here today talking about one of the biggest problems facing one of the most incredible cities in the most incredible countries in this day and age, that so many families are living under bridges and bushes, under highway overpasses, in their cars, in garages. It's defining not only the fact that this has been failure for years. This plan can't fail. There's too much at risk. There's too much at stake. There's too many people who count on it. It is not a privilege to have shelter. It's a God-given right. And it's one of the most important things we need to do as a government body. And therefore, I will continue to fight and work with all of you in everything we possibly can do, day in and day out, to make sure that we make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Mr. Englander. Thank you very much. Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you. Well said, Mitchell. That was deep. Colleagues, today we are taking the appropriate steps forward on this comprehensive solution to homelessness. And Mr. Englander is absolutely right. Time and time again, city, county, state, federal government has failed the system, has failed this issue. Want to recognize Sherry Weaver, who's here, our SPITE coordinator, also sits in our San Pedro Homelessness Task Force. In my district alone, we just opened 79 permanent supportive housing units. We have an additional 230 units in line, going through the indicating the importance of housing, the Housing First model. Over the weekend, I want to share with you, colleagues, what I read. Every week, we are our weekly status report. This came from Nicole Wells, who's our constituent services manager. I want to read what she wrote in the report. This incident was highlighted, reported on our Facebook feed. An individual on 7th and Gaffey, a block away from Cabrillo Avenue Elementary School, where the homeless individual was lying in his own urine and feces, and kids walking to Cabrillo Avenue Elementary School had to walk around him on their way to school. Nicole wrote, LAHSA responded and met with Mr. Williams, a homeless male at this location. During their conversation, Mr. Williams stated that he's a veteran. Harbor Interfaith was notified, Sherry was notified, and a VA rep will come see him as soon as she verifies Mr. Williams' status. They offered services and shelter. Mr. Williams refused. Aside from being intoxicated, he was very polite. Also, they asked if he would change his location, and he stated this: I've ran out of corners. Mr. Williams has run out of corners. He's physically disabled. LAHSA felt it'd be ideal to place him in a motel. However, he doesn't have a photo ID. LAHSA will help get him one. He moved on Thursday evening, and the car wash helped clean the mess left behind. Mr. Williams has run out of corners. This is one of thousands of stories that we hear on a nightly basis here in the city of Los Angeles. And I hope and pray that with this long-term plan, we don't have Mr. Williams in our city, especially in light of, our the Holy Father, Pope Francis, calls this year to be the year of mercy. Let us be reminded of that as we prepare in moving forward on this plan. However, I know this is a long-term plan. We need to know what we're doing today. What are we doing tonight in addressing this issue? And I feel that both our, public safety and our public health are in jeopardy today in the city of Los Angeles as it relates to the number of encampments that we're seeing across the city of Los Angeles. And in order for us to solve the homelessness problem, both police and the fire departments need to be a part of the solution. For years, our police officers, along with firefighters, have been on the front lines dealing with the symptoms of homelessness, while the city and the county lack the coordinated and comprehensive strategy to address the root causes of homelessness. There are a few city departments that not only has personnel on duty 24 hours a day, but also on the streets, proactively patrolling the street and responding to emergency calls, and that's LAPD and the LA Fire Department. Over half of our general fund spending is already allocated to the LA Police Department, so I want to make sure that these strategies in place pertain to the LAPD are considered a top priority. I also want to ensure that LAPD is not restricted in their ability to ensure public safety, which overall is our #1 priority in this city. So if you can, Miguel, can you touch on the strategy in place to develop that standardized first responder training described in Strategy 3A, and how soon can we expect the LAPD and the LA Sheriff's Department to develop that standardized training? And also, I'm encouraged about the Strategy 3D. It relates to expanding jail in reach. I mean, Sherry and I have stories of working with...
Joe.
Yes.
Watch it. Finish.
Yes,
wrap it up.
Sherry and I have stories of working with the homeless when I was a senior lead officer, and during the booking process was the only time I was able to reach out and offer services, because jail is the rock bottom moment that will propel many people, especially addicts, to seek that help. So is the jail in research being piloted in any jails around the country? And then I'll push my button again. Can you just share on those two points?
Sure. The Jail in Reach program is actually currently in place in the Sheriff's Department, and a major part of their recommendations is to significantly expand that program. And we're recommending in our strategies that we adopt a similar program in our own jails to ensure that every person who is released from our jail system has a plan as to where they're going to go next. And this is done in many times in partnership with various nonprofit organizations who have developed relationships with various landlords who have, in some cases, master lease agreements to ensure that that person has a plan once they exit. And as far as the training program, the city currently has an effective partnership with mental health. We're proposing expanding the notion of a nurse practitioner program through the fire department so that the response is one that is more appropriate. And then, of course, expanding the capacity of coordinated entry system so that as often as possible, a response is done in coordination with a provider that can link that individual to long-term permanent supportive housing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go now to Ms. Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I also want to thank the Homeless and Poverty Committee for your outstanding work, Mr. Huizar and Mr. Harris-Dawson. And I also want to recognize the work of both the CLA's office and the CEO's office. As you know, I've been very passionate about this issue over the last couple of months. As we discuss the strategy moving forward in terms of how we're going to fund it, I just want to make it clear that I believe that the crisis of homelessness affects all of us. Every single one of the people that we represent in our districts, it's touched every single one of our districts. And I also believe that it's the city's social and moral obligation to try to, assist individuals who find themselves in these circumstances and who want to seek help. But at the same time, I also believe that we also have the obligation to support kids and seniors and families who, in our neighborhoods, are also being touched and affected and impacted by the circumstances of those folks who find themselves homeless. So I want to make sure that there's a balance during this conversation and that the 62 strategies in this report, and that we're also being honest with the public. We're not, and by what I mean honest, is that we're not going to find the money overnight to fund these 62 strategies, but that we recognize that we're also are not promising the citizens of Los Angeles a new Los Angeles overnight. It's very difficult to do that, especially with the amount of money that it's going to cost us to implement some of these recommendations. But I do believe that this is an opportunity for us to promise Angelenos that we're committed to making the city an example of humanity, dignity, and respect for folks who find themselves in these circumstances. So I no longer want to, that no longer will women who find themselves homeless have an overwhelming sense of vulnerability because they don't have a roof over their heads, and that children and families who play in our parks, that they also aren't fearful that it isn't safe to play in their own neighborhood parks. So creating that balance, I think, is very, very important, and that hopefully that it's no longer okay that certain parts of the city carry the weight of these issues on their shoulders, while other parts of our city simply send their challenges elsewhere. And that's something that I've been incredibly outspoken about. So I've circulated a number of amendments to today's 62 recommendations. And so it's my hope that we continue the conversation, but at the same time, that we continue the commitment down this road. And I ask that we continue to be guided by the spirit of equality and shared responsibility. Thank you.